right, everyone. We are live with Emily Schaad Konkler. How are we doing today? Thanks for taking the time.
Hey, we're doing great. How about you?
We're good. We're good.
Doing
We
great.
made it work. We got all the technical bugs worked out. You,
Yeah,
you got
yeah.
your iPad. We're here. We are good to go. So, again, thanks for taking the time. I know you had just gotten off work, and so this is a late podcast for all of us. But again, thank you. Before we get too far, Emily, let's go ahead and introduce yourself and just kind of talk about your early start into hunting and fishing and kind of what got you into this.
Yeah, sure. My name is Emily Schaad Konkler, and I am from Southeast Ohio down here. I have been into hunting ever since I was little. My dad was actually a big game guide out west in Idaho for, gosh, I don't know how many years, 30 some 40 years maybe. I don't know. He worked for several different outfitters and stuff. So, he was always gone several months out of the year. So, hunting was just kind of became natural to me because he hunted so much. It was just all year round. He seemed to be doing something with it, whether it was here for whitetail turkey or out there, for bear and elk and everything in between. So yeah, I pretty
That's
much
awesome.
I had to get into hunting. There was no choice.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Now, do you have any brothers or sisters or anything like that that were brought into it, or were you just the only one?
Nope, it's just me. I'm the
There you
only
go.
only child.
There you go.
Yep.
There you go. I have a young daughter myself, and so as a guy that's into hunting, I just can't wait. She's 6. We're finally getting ready to get started. I can be that dad, if you will. So I'm really excited for that. So that's cool to hear that story.
Yep, that's awesome.
Um, so you growing up, it's always been something that your family has done, and I know that through some of your bio stuff and hearing you on other podcasts is that you actually went to college for that as well too. Can you kind of talk
Yeah.
about that and what your decision is?
Yep. So, since I grew up, with hunting and everything so much, I volunteered a ton with the ODNR. And it was just something that I always wanted to do was just make a career out of it because I just loved it that much, wildlife
Oh, sure.
conservation, forestry, and, everything in between. So, yeah, I pursued a degree in wildlife sciences at Hawking College. So I got my degree there and graduated in 2012 and got a seasonal position with the ODNR as a natural resource specialist. So I did that and everything. It's just kind of in this area. It's a little bit harder to find, a full-time job in wildlife. It seems like most of
Sure.
them are, up north and stuff. So, but yeah, I absolutely love working for the ODNR, and it was definitely was not, a waste at all going to college for wildlife. I learned a ton, and I still put a lot of it to use nowadays. So yeah. Yep.
Oh, for sure. And some of my good friends of all are like forestry management or like wildlife, not necessarily wildlife man, but just even like on the forestry side. I think that lends itself very well into what we do and what we care for because you know that
Oh yeah.
you're hanging in this elm tree or that's a white oak or a red oak or shagbark or all that stuff. I think really makes a difference, especially when it comes to trying to scout and use that to your advantage.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, knowing your tree species is kind of like it's a must because it really
Oh
helps
yeah.
you out when it comes to chasing whitetails for sure.
Oh, for sure. Definitely. I know we kind of wanted to get into it. I've heard it on other podcasts as well, but we can't talk to you without talking to you about Freak. I'm sure you talk about him all the time.
He's
So,
my favorite.
um, yeah, I'm sure he is. He's a lot of people's favorite. I think I heard you, obviously you and Clint have a good relationship, and I've heard you on Working Class Bowman, a lot. And
Yep.
so I've heard this story, but for those people that may not be interested or may not have known, let's go ahead and give the rundown story and the fight that you had with him.
Yeah, so I'll just make it short because it's a long story. It spanned over several years, but yes, I had several years of history
Yep.
with Freak. He was a buck that I never thought that was honestly going to turn into anything because I didn't realize it until after I killed him. I had history of him when he was actually normal and not a freak. But I just thought, he was just a junk old buck. He was never going to turn into anything. He was horrible looking the one year. The next year, I ended up photographing him in an alfalfa field, and I was just mind blown with what he had turned into. And I knew it was the same deer because he carried that same, deformed freak side or that freak antler. And I didn't really have a good way to chase him that year. So it was kind of just like, fingers crossed and pray that he would make it to the next year where I could, hopefully get permission to be able to hunt kind of the other side of the farm there and get access to hunt him. And I was able to, and it was just, I didn't care about any other deer besides that buck, and I did everything in my power to figure out what he was doing. I was running, oh my gosh, I don't know how many trail cameras on that end of the farm because I knew that was his hangout spot. And
Yeah.
beginning of October during the red moon is actually when I finally got photos of him for the first time. And I was just absolutely mind blown when I checked the trail camera and saw him on there. And I mean, he
Yeah.
looked like an elk. Like, he did not even look like a whitetail. And it was just, I couldn't hunt until that following Saturday, and that was Wednesday when I got a picture of him, and I couldn't focus at work. And so I was I ended up being able to hunt that Saturday, and that's when the whole issue, I called Clint, told him about this deer. I was like, there's no way I'm going to be able to do a hanging hunt because I just got off work that Saturday. Didn't have hardly any time, and he pretty much kicked me in the butt and told me I didn't have a choice but to go do and hang a hunt whether I liked it or not. So I'm like, okay, I'm going to make this work one way or the other. Didn't eat lunch, like nothing. I ended up doing a hanging hunt. It was actually my first time ever doing a hanging hunt, and the only tree I had to work with was this ginormous saw timber size shagbark hickory tree. If you can only imagine what a disaster that was, trying to hang a stand in a shagbark hickory tree. So, I made it finally up in the tree. I didn't think I was going to. I about gave up and threw everything across the woods multiple times, but I finally did it. Never once thought I was going to see a deer, like nothing. I was exhausted, sweating.
Yeah.
It was just awful. Everything was awful. I never once thought that it was going to work out. And I mean, it was 6 o'clock. I think it was about 6 o'clock, way before dark. And I just see this giant rack coming through the woods, and, an antler sticking out on one side of a tree, an antler sticking out on the other. I knew it was him, and I just could not believe that he was actually coming right to my stand setup where I had gotten pictures of him during the red moon those previous days earlier, and right where I found his shed the year before as well. And he came right in, broadside at 18 yards, and it was like it was meant to be. He turned his head, looked the other direction, and I just let the arrow fly, and the rest was history. So
that's awesome.
Yeah, yep, it was pretty crazy.
We actually just talked to one of our pro staff members yesterday, Craig Holycross, and he shared a story where it seems like just about every hunt. It's funny that you say this because just about every hunt that he's ever had, it's always been something is going wrong.
Yep.
Like every great hunt and memorable hunt, something is going wrong. I'm either hanging in a stand that hasn't been prepped in 20 years, or I forget my sticks in the truck, or I do this or I do that, and it's just so funny because it's textbook. Every story, there's always a really cool issue, if you will, that happens that lends itself into Would it be the same if you had all those issues? Probably not. I mean, it'd still be a cool story because you got them down, but now you have all this extra, that kind of tie into it. Now, I will tell you, Ben's going to smile because he knows where I'm going at. Your life would be a heck of a lot easier if you just got into a tethered saddle. Just saying. I'm just putting it out there. We can help you out with that. So just let us know, and you can hang and hunt. You'll be up in that tree in 5 minutes. Not even dropping sweat.
I do saddle hunt. I actually gave that a whirl last fall, and I saddle hunted a lot, actually.
Oh, there you go. That makes me happy.
That shagbark's still an issue with a saddle. No matter what.
I will never hang another stand or ever climb a shagbark ever again after that. I'm done. That was the icing on the cake. That's it.
You had mentioned that you had gotten a picture of him in the field, right? In terms of seeing how his antler growth and everything. I want to kind of segue that into your photography because I know that you have some, stellar content on Instagram, and so definitely props for that because we definitely appreciate it. So if you can kind of run us through what you your philosophy is there and kind of how you're creating the content, and then we'll kind of tie into doing that for the brands and stuff too, or you can kind of play that in because I know that my next question I kind of had for you was kind of tying that into some of the brands that you rep. So if you kind of want to give us a rundown on that.
Yeah, so the photography ordeal, it's kind of a funny story because my dad was actually a photographer and my uncle and everything. So I kind of just got it naturally to just, I'm always into to taking photos and, things like that. And, once I started hunting a lot, the struggle was I never had anybody that took good photos of me with a deer or to take photos of me in general. So it was kind of always a struggle ever since I was young. So actually, I can't even remember what year it was. I think it was maybe winter of 2018 is when I decided, you know what? There's some people that's given me, some influence, and I really just wanted to start, working with the camera and seeing what I could do. So like winter 2018, I just went out and I bought everything that I,
Nice.
needed, my Canon, my lenses, like everything. And I just started.
Canon. Yeah.
We're
No
t-
Sony, Canon over here.
yeah, we're team Canon for
Yeah.
sure. We gave some of the guys from Prime some crap because they're team Sony, so we're team Canon.
Yep. I love my Canon. But yeah, so I was like, you know what? I'm just going to get the camera and I'm going to start out with the good stuff. I'm not going to get a cheap camera and move up. I'm just going to start with what I need and, go forward with that. So, I literally taught myself everything that I know, and I got it set up to where I have a tripod and I have a remote shutter release in order to do all of my own content shots and photography. Because
That was the next question.
I didn't have anybody to take pictures of me, so I have to do everything on my own, which the struggle is still real sometimes, especially with getting, that right lighting and this and that and other.
Yep.
But it's, come forward to where, I started doing the photography and I started making posts and, producing some content just for my, Instagram and Facebook and stuff like that. And people and companies, I guess, it just kind of started seeing my work. I mean, it's not like it's that great by any means, compared to some, professional hunting photographers and stuff out there.
Oh, I don't know. Don't do yourself that much injustice. Some of the drone shots that you have of the property are pretty dope. So let's not cut yourself short.
But I feel like people just started really kind of getting into my photography and work that I have done and following along, and they just started reaching out to me about my photos and maybe doing some photos and stuff for them and content and stuff. So that's just kind of how it got all started. Really, the photography got me started with everything really in the hunting industry, it seems like.
Yeah, it's interesting how you want to do that for yourself, right? Just because, I mean, we struggle because if my man here to my right's not with me, I mean, I got to set up the app on my phone and put the tripod and do the video work. And, of course, it's just a big pain in the butt. And so
that was a question I had for you because you said the remote, but do you use the Canon app? And I don't know what camera you have, but
if you can, let's run through some of your gear. So if someone was looking at jumping in.
Yeah, so I have a Canon 6D, which I don't even think they make really the 6D anymore. I think they have like the Mark II. I don't know. It's been a while since I looked online for the Canon, but I have a Canon 6D, and I have my main lens I use is a 24x70 2.8.
Yep.
So that's my main lens that I run for everything, and I have a remote shutter release. So part of it attaches like on the hot shoe on the top of the camera and plugs in. And then the little remote I actually hold myself, and I'm able, to focus and stuff like that, with my hand instead of, putting things on a timer and running back and forth. That's
it's a pain.
It doesn't work at all. So that's what I use to do everything. And I mean, if I didn't have the remote shutter release, I wouldn't be able to do half the shots that I do.
For sure. Yeah, and I don't believe that 60. That was
I think it was too.
That was pre-app. So
it's nice to have that remote trigger because that setting the timer and running and making sure it's
a pain.
You can't put yourself in focus either because you're having to be behind the camera when you put the timer on. So then in the end, you're not in focus. So I don't even see how it works half the time.
Exactly. Exactly. Yeah, that was a question I had too, because you can kind of tell just because I do this and I'm in this industry and I take the pictures and stuff. I'm like, oh, I wonder if she's having someone do it or if it's someone. So yeah, don't sell yourself short on that feed though. If you have a chance, go check out her Instagram. We'll definitely link it and give you a chance to pitch it here. But there's some high quality shots in there. And if you're doing it all by yourself, you are doing a far better job than Ben and I. So.
Well, I appreciate that.
So the photography kind of got you into working with, like, and again, I'm going to use air quotes, but working in the industry, right? And
Yeah.
so,
Yeah.
can you kind of dive into some of the writing that you do for Bow Hunting Magazine, and then maybe even some of the connections on some of the brands that you have across the industry to give people an idea of kind of who you're repping right now?
Yeah, so kind of how I got started writing with Peterson bow hunting is through Clint. Obviously, Clint Casper is like
Okay.
my
Yep.
absolute
Yep.
best, one of my best friends. So, and he writes for Peterson. So he kind of helped me get on with that. And I have a really good
Okay.
relationship with Christian and stuff, the editor there. So, yeah, so actually I have a couple articles that's going to be coming out this fall and winter. And then I'm working on a couple web articles as well. So you'll have to be on the lookout for those and things like that.
For
But
sure.
yeah,
Cool.
so that's kind of how that got started. And, I kind of is one of those things where a lot of companies will contact me wanting, me to do content or work together. But it's kind of one of them things where when you start in the hunting industry, you kind of get super excited about like every company and this and that and the other. But then the longer you're in it, you just kind of want to just do your own thing.
Yeah.
And kind of take your own path and really like sit down and pick and choose like, okay, what company really kind of like represents me and the quality and the people that's behind it. And I'm kind
Yeah.
of really looking for those companies that they keep things here in the USA. That really means a lot to me to work
Oh,
with
sure.
those brands and stuff like that. So kind of right now I do a lot for Onyx. Onyx
Yep.
and I have had a super good relationship over the years, so I do a lot of photography work and stuff for them. Dialed Archery, Taylor's kind of brought
Yep.
me on board with that. So, we're starting to work
Yeah.
and do some stuff for Dialed and
Yeah. Great guys. Great guys.
Novix tree stands. Absolutely love those
Yep.
guys in that company, made right here in the USA. So I really
Yep. Exactly.
love them. So yeah, doing stuff with them. I've done, some work for DSG and stuff like that. They're great as well. So, and Real World Wildlife Seed with those guys over there, Don Higgins. I mean, he's just an incredible whitetail manager and stuff. He's one of the best. So, it's an honor to be able to work with those guys and everything. So yeah, those are some of the main ones that, I'm doing work and stuff for and working with. So.
No. Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah, and the dialed guys are good. Like I mentioned to you, I don't know if
Yep.
we were recording yet or not, but we had recorded with Jordan Riley. This is probably at this point 3 episodes ago. While we're recording this, by the time people hear this, it'll be further back. I think it's episode 21. I'm going off the top of my memory, but we talked about dialed and we talked about the process and how him and Taylor and Scott all kind of got together. I actually stopped at their booth at TAC. I don't know if you've ever been to TAC, but in PA, so Total Archery Challenge in PA. I didn't get a chance to talk to Scott, but we kind of got to see the product and hold it and feel it. And those guys, I mean, I know it's taken them a lot of effort, and people are really patiently waiting for their sites to come in. I think as we're talking, sites are starting to go out, but those guys are doing a lot of work, and the quality, the attention to detail that they're doing with those has definitely been really, really something to see for sure. And so
I'm sure it's going to be worth the wait for everybody because they,
oh yeah,
Yeah.
like you said, the
Definitely.
quality.
Yeah.
I asked them how soon it would be before we could get them in the retail stores. That way we can get our hands on them here.
Yeah. Yeah, those guys, they're working so hard. I know they're frustrated and stuff just because, with how things are, things are just taking so long and
Oh yeah.
delayed and they're just absolutely doing their best, to keep everybody on board and everybody happy until they're able to get their sites and stuff. So they really are
Exactly.
putting a lot of time and effort into it, that's for sure.
They really are, and I'm glad that they're being transparent with it too.
Yeah.
Because I'm sure that they understand the enthusiasts are kind of, hey, like, I want to get my product. Season's coming down the pipe here soon, and I want to get practicing and shooting with it. So yeah, I'm sure that they're feeling the crunch too. So.
Oh yeah.
But no, and I'm glad you said it too, because we've talked to guys at Prime, we've talked to Jordan, and we've talked to Jordan Riley and other people throughout the industry. The guys at Tethered we have a really good friendship with them, and everyone kind of echoes that same thing that you're saying too, as far as they want to work with a company that has a great product, but most importantly has great people.
Exactly.
And I think that's a common theme that I hear just about across the industry with anyone that's quote unquote an influencer or anyone that's creating content or media, is that they want to work with people that want to work with companies that have great people. And so you echoing that only further solidifies that for me too.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. It's great to be with companies that, see you as like, part of the family. You can text them when you want, and, it's kind of in close quarters instead of a company where you just feel like you're just a number, and I've been with companies like that, and I don't like that. And I don't do that anymore. Like, I really sit down and pick and choose, who was really, a good company and has a group of people, to work with. So, yep.
Yeah, and even DSG. I mean, we carry DSG products, and then we talked earlier a little bit too. But Rochelle and the gang at DSG. I mean, they're great people to work with. We can text them right away and talk or whatever. We actually have her coming on the podcast, I believe, next week. So
okay, cool.
Just being able to talk to people and being able. And the other thing that we found is really interesting too for me, from the just coming in the industry a little over a year, is just how small and how tight knit it actually truly is.
Yeah.
And how Emily knows Clint, and Clint knows this guy, and this guy knows this guy, and next thing you know, you're talking to all the. I mean, that's how we've been able to talk to all these people since we've started our podcast this year. And so it's been really cool to see how tight knit and how everyone kind of knows everybody, and going to shows like ATA or going to the Open Season Expo here for us. I didn't get a chance to talk to Clint when we were at the Open Season Expo here. I know that they had a booth, but just being able to talk to the Novix guys. I talked to the Novix guys at the expo. It's such a tight knit. Smaller industry than what people think it is. So
yep, it definitely is.
So kind of shifting gears here, you have some other career paths as well. So I wanted to give you the opportunity. I think it was really interesting. It was definitely really helpful when we were doing our research about your bio page. But let's talk about the Land Pro through Realtree and kind of being a real estate agent, if you will, for people that are looking to maybe buy some hunting property.
Yeah, so I actually just became a real estate agent earlier this year, it's kind of funny because it's kind of like it was meant to be, because actually when I bought my farm last fall is kind of how I met the people, that believed in me to get my real estate license, and now who I work with, actually with Realtree Properties. So it's pretty cool how all that ended up and how close we all are now just from buying a piece of property. So it was definitely meant to be, but yeah, it's kind of an awesome, something I really enjoy because, I am a social person. I love dealing with people. I've worked with the public my whole entire life with, all my jobs and stuff. So I have no problem, doing that. And it's nice to, make people feel good about either the land they're trying to sell or people who's trying to buy a property, and tell them, things they can do with it, and, give advice, and, be able to put a smile on people's face, either when they buy or they sell or anything like that. So it's been a good time. Obviously, things kind of start out slow and stuff, but I'm hoping next year, we can really crank down and really put it to more of like a full time, because right now I have several jobs. So I'm hoping next year, I can really be full time with the real estate, and we can get rolling with that. But yeah.
We're actually talking, I don't know if you're familiar with him, but Reese Johnson. Are you familiar with Reese Johnson on Instagram? He does a lot of Trail Camera Tuesday stuff.
No,
but he's
I don't think so.
He's been on Exodus Trail Camera Radio, as well as some other podcasts, but he's more known just for trail camera photos and hunting and whitetail specifically. But he's a real estate agent in Southern Kentucky. Okay. And so it's funny because here's a real esate agent today that's selling property and is just getting her feet wet and kind of getting the ball rolling. And then here's more of a veteran guy. He's always out there. And but I feel like that's a perfect fit for you too, just given the fact that you're a hunter and you know what you're looking for. And you know what people are, what more importantly, what customers or clients are looking for, right, in terms of selling a property. And the other thing I thought too is, so I was kind of poking around and seeing what deals I could find. Everyone wants to buy their own property, right? And so I was poking around. You could tell I was like, oh, that's an Emily property because her photos were crispy. So it was funny. It was just here's some cell phone pictures of some properties and, different areas. And I was like, oh, here's Emily's. And you can just definitely tell that she was using her big camera.
I liked how you threw the hat at the base of the tree so you could see how big the tree was.
Yeah.
That was good.
That's honestly about the best way to do it, because really in any other way you can't really tell how big a tree is unless you put something up against this. The old hat trick.
Especially with cameras, the thing with distortion and whatever, things can look a lot bigger or whatever than what they are.
Exactly. So. Yep.
So I think this is kind of cool. We had talked about it before, but if I'm let's say I'm looking, I mean, if I won the lottery, I'd be looking right now, but I'm still a lease guy. But if I get into the part where I'm finally at that point where I feel like I need my own property and feel like I need my own 30, 40, 50 acres, I kind of have an idea as a hunter and as someone in the, that's active in it. But what kind of things would I be looking for? Or what kind of things as an agent would you be trying to pitch to sell for people when they're looking at getting a property? I'm kind of going at this as like an entry level thing, or someone that maybe is on the fence. Like, what kind of things should someone be looking for when they're looking to make a purchase, if you will?
So, like I said, it just depends on what you're wanting the property for, whether you're,
Sure.
Big into, squirrel hunting, or whether you want it for just whitetail hunting or turkey hunting, or if, you're really into management, or you just, want a property. But say, you're a big time bow hunter or something, like you and I and stuff are, and, we're really looking for something. I mean, you don't have to have, 100, 300, 1,000 acres, in order to kill a big deer. I mean, you can kill a big deer on 5 acres, but you want something to where you can do some management work too, to try to keep some deer and hold some deer around there. But I know what I was looking for when I was looking for a property is I wanted a property with, number one, that had tillable ground on it. I mean, that's a huge thing, especially in this state or in states that don't, allow baiting and things like that. And, this state may come to it to where you're not allowed to bait with how the chronic wasting disease is going. So I was thinking to the future, I want a property that has a lot of tillable ground on it, because if that's my only way, to draw deer in with food, I want to be able to plant corn and turnips or soybeans or alfalfa. So tillable ground was an absolute must for me. I was not going to buy a farm unless it had tillable ground on it. Having a water source is huge too, because, whitetails have to, drink constantly in order to survive. So, having a creek system or a pond, or even if it doesn't, you can put in a pond. You kind of have to visualize things that you can do to improve it. So, having a water source. Another big thing that I look for is, having mass producing oak trees. So oaks are my absolute favorite thing. White oaks and red oaks, because they are so beneficial to multiple types of wildlife: turkey, squirrel, deer. I mean, all the above. So being able to have a property that has mass producing oaks, or being able to plant oaks, which I planted a ton of new oaks on my farm to help, replenish ones that were logged out previously. So having those oaks and stuff is really huge. And, doing your research, it's kind of hard when you're buying a new property, especially if you're not familiar with the area, on neighbors and stuff, but kind of doing your own research on kind of neighbors or hunting pressure, or asking questions and stuff like that, trying to get a feel of what the area is like, what type of deer are taken out of the area, and then different things like that really helps too. Because I mean, it would really be awful if, you're big into deer management and you buy this property and, none of your neighbors do deer management, and it's just a waste of your time to even try. I mean, it happens a lot, but that would be a big bummer. So just trying to do some research and asking questions and stuff like that.
Oh, for sure. And I think, what was it, like Doug Duran or something? They have like a neighbor, like I want to say community, but they're in the country, but they have like kind of like a landowner's agreement, if you will. Yeah. They kind of help with the management across the entire board.
He's got a giant plot, but also it's that as well. I think his community, they've agreed, not to kill one.
Like 15 spread or whatever. Exactly.
That would be really nice for sure. That'd be beneficial.
But I'm glad you said the tillable land piece too, because I think, unfortunately, some of the prime hunting and some of the best hunting that we have, as you know, is down in Southeast Ohio, and that's few and far between that you can find a place down there that potentially has some tillable land. And so, the other thing to think of is, we had talked to Mark Wiley, who's one of the state biologists for the wild turkey population, or I should say ground birds, and it's funny. I'm glad you said that too, because a lot of what you would find in a turkey, a lot of stuff that's good for turkeys is good for deer, is good for squirrels, it's good for just about anything. And so, a lot of as a hunter, I really like old growth forests because I have lots of shooting lanes. I don't have to worry about so much understory, but unfortunately, the understory is what you need. And so, opening up those understory areas, or And I think the other thing is like access. I think trying to find a spot. If you have a property that's let's say 40 acres, but it's the shape of an L. Well, getting to that top of the L, if you're parking down at the bottom, can be kind of tricky. So you got to kind of look at all that and how you're going to access the property and how you're going to, especially setting up stands and things and playing the wind. And so there's a lot to look into, and I'm sure that process kind of goes in to when you're trying to sell, or you're working as the selling agent or the buying agent. I'm sure that a lot of that conversation kind of goes into play.
Yeah. Access is a huge thing for everybody because, like you said, if you're buying it for hunting or even if you're not buying it for hunting, if you have to walk clear across the whole entire property to reach the other side, or you're having to go through the bedding area to even reach where you need to go to hunt, it's going to make it really tough. So, trying to get a property that's got road access, or even if it doesn't, just having a way to get in and out, to access everything without, completely blowing everything out or that's definitely a big factor.
So when this airs, we'll probably be, I'd say probably around the middle of August. So by the time this is airing, so the food plot stuff is really picking up. A lot of people are getting their food plots in. I know you had mentioned tillable acreage. August is a really good month right now, even right now into August to kind of get those late season food plots started, or some of those food plots started. Kind of let's run through. So what do you got going on right now? What's it look like for you with your food plot?
So I have an acre of clover that I actually planted in the spring that I've got going right now. So I have that on one farm. On the new farm, I kind of split all of my tillable acreage up a little bit here for this year. I'm obviously going to do more next year. It was just kind of a time crunch this year, but I planted an acre of corn in the middle kind of the tillable acreage that I have. And then on the lower end below the corn here come August, I'm actually going to plant an acre of turnips. That way the corn is growed up and it's kind of going to, have like kind of a little block or shelter around that turnip field.
Screen.
So those bucks feel more comfortable coming out and eating in the turnips. And then once late season comes, then they'll be utilizing that corn a lot more. So that's kind of how I put that there. That way they've got some cover and they feel a little more safe coming out into the turnips. So those
that's a good idea.
So those are kind of the three things I have going on right now. Next year, I'm kind of in a debating game whether I want to go for, since I've created even more tillable acreage on that farm, if I want to go for soybeans or get some alfalfa in the ground. I absolutely love alfalfa. I don't know. It just depends on. I got to do a lot of deciding on what we're going to do next year. That's
sure. Awesome. Yeah, the screen cover is huge. That's something I think I took away. Mark Kinnian did that Back 40 podcast a long time ago, or not podcast, video. It was probably like 3 years ago at this point. And that how they were transforming that property that hadn't been really touched, or if it was touched, it was a long time ago. And they're like, let's put some screen cover here so the deer feel more secure as they're coming out and they're not getting spooked, or I can kind of hug it and walk by and not bump them. So there's definitely a huge advantage to having that in your plot or splitting that. If you have the land, if you have, and like you said, you got an acre, so an acre is quite a bit. It's a good decent size in our food plot. So, being able to cut that in half, it kind of gives you two different options, if you will, to kind of hunt. So
yeah, for sure.
So when you put in a plot, do you always till, or do you ever just do like a kill and like a Jeff Sturgis type of thing, like where you just kill it off, let it bake off, and then throw your seed out, or do you always till when you put something in?
So more than usually I kill it off and then I actually till. So I usually do both things, especially if it's, the property that's never, or land that's never been tilled before, in order to get that seed down in. But I definitely like to kill it first and then till and then put it in the seed. That way it gives it, that seed a lot more opportunity to grow before any weeds or anything like that will come back up. That was one of the mistakes with my clover field this year, because I was in such a time crunch. That's when the real estate was really going, and I didn't have time to kill it off, and I'm kicking myself in the butt for that, because it's just like weed city out there right now, and it's just like, well, I might just going to have to replant it again next year.
No doubt. No doubt. Another thing I think I'd like to try too is that crimp. I learned that from Grant Woods, like Growing Deer TV, Dr. Grant Woods or whatever. They do the crimp, and basically it breaks the stem and kills it, without using the herbicide.
Yeah.
And so then you're just, you're broadcast seeding over top of it. Or I think they actually use a no-till drill. I think they use a no-till drill over top of that, and so it kind of helps it hold that moisture in.
Yeah.
And then lets those seeds germinate a little bit easier, but they're also going straight in no-till. So, and I mean, you're not just broadcast seeding; you got a better chance of getting something to grow. So,
Do you pull like a pH test too before you plant everything and make sure all your pH is good, or do you just
I have done that in the past. This year I didn't do it just because it's just one of the things I just didn't have a lot of time for this year.
Yep.
But I have done it in the past, stuff like that. But yeah, kind of like back to the no-till thing, like he was saying, there is an advantage because I do have a farmer that actually really helps me out with stuff, and he really helped me out this year with things. Actually, he's the one that put in my corn because I don't have a corn planter, stuff like that. So I pay him, and he comes out and does everything, the planting, stuff like that. So that's really handy. So like next year, if I do put in beans or something like that, we'll just spray the whole field off, and he's going to no-till everything in.
Yeah,
no-till
seed
it in. So yeah, that'll be really nice.
Well, and it'll help, going back to Ben's pH balancing too, that will help with the soil quality as well by leaving those root systems in there and letting it hold the nutrients over the winter months. So,
yep, exactly.
Oh yeah, you can't. No-till is definitely where it's at. I think you see a lot of farmers just going that in general, or in our area. We have a lot of ag land up here in Central Ohio, and just about the lease property that I have, they did beans and corn this year. It's kind of like a 20-acre plot of both, and they no-tilled the entire thing this year again. Yeah. So you definitely see people doing it. It saves fuel, and it saves time in the field, and makes it and just as good a product. So. Yeah,
it seems like most of the farmers around here are going to no-till, even for alfalfa. To be honest, they're starting to no-till alfalfa too. So it's becoming really, really big around here too.
Well, I want to kind of shift it up a little bit. I know you were talking about some of the the companies that you're with and working for Peterson's and hitting the bow hunting magazine and just being in the industry. And kind of what I wanted to say is, I mean, these air quotes again, but kind of like as an ambassador for women, and we had kind of talked about this beforehand too. What do you think our sport or our hobby needs in order to empower more women to kind of be in the industry or kind of be active in this, picking up that string and stick and going out there and hunting themselves?
So I feel like women are really getting a lot more involved in hunting and stuff. I feel like there's just as many women half the time as there is men and stuff getting involved in, which is really awesome. I feel like a lot of women can maybe get kind of intimidated or overwhelmed trying to get started, especially if they want to get started with it, but they don't have any family or friends that's really involved into it. I think kind of gives women a hard time in getting started with it. So it's kind of one of them things where you just gotta, get involved with, different things, whether it's the hunting group or the NWTF or, going to banquets or listening to podcasts and talking with people and just kind of making friends and, kind of teaching yourself things, asking questions, looking on YouTube, things like that to kind of just get started, or, just make a visit to a bow shop, even if you're wanting to get involved in it. And, a person working in a bow shop can, kind of teach you how to shoot, help you set things up. I did that at Cabela's several years back. We kind of had like a women's day, and women came into Cabela's that's never shot archery before that wanted to learn. And we got them started on how to shoot, how to put on the release, how to use your peep, how to set things up. And, just anything like that can really allow a female to really get started and with picking up the stick and string and learning. There's just all sorts of just resources out there nowadays between magazines and Instagram and podcasts and things like that. It's just, if you really want to get involved in it, you just got to just dive head first and just start learning. There's just so many resources and so many women that's willing to help other women get involved in it too. So,
exactly. And like I said, we were kind of talking a little bit about the event that we have every year to kind of help, and it's solely for women. And I think some people occasionally bring their spouse, but mainly just for women. And, I wanted to kind of get your opinion. I feel like I kind of had an idea what you were going to say. We live in a very media rich environment right now in terms of podcasting and videos. And, the Jeff Sturgis video that's good for us three is just as good for anyone else. And, but I think getting over that intimidation factor is huge. I know several women that, they may not be strong enough to pull a bow back. Well, there's always a shotgun, or there's always a rifle, depending on where you live, or a crossbow. Mm-hmm. Exactly. Or we can go the crossbow. And so, excuse me. But yeah, trying to getting over that intimidation factor. And I feel like that's where companies like DSG and others, Eva Shockey and the Elite Bow that's geared towards women and just all that stuff. I think the more that we can get them in, I think, as a husband, as a spouse, I would love for my wife to be involved with that because it's something that we can do together. And I feel like a lot of men probably feel the same way too. So
yeah, it's kind of one of the things that, a lot of women don't think that they're strong enough, or, I'll admit I weigh 107 pounds. So I am very, very small, and I have, worked really hard to be able to get myself where I am with all the physical stuff that I do. 'Cause, I do everything by myself. Everything that I do, I'm doing on my own. I've self-taught myself pretty much everything that I know. My dad got me started in everything, but then once I started in archery, I just started learning everything myself, all the tricks of the trade and how to do this and how to do that. And, I lift weights, I do all kinds of stuff in order to just, keep myself up where I need to be in order to draw a bow back. And like I said, I'm super tiny and I'm pulling 52 pounds, which may not seem like much. And it might not be, but women don't have to have a 60 or 70 pound bow in order to harvest an animal. I get passed through shooting 52 pounds. No problem at all. So it's kind of like, it doesn't matter if you're small or, how big you are. You can always work towards improving in order to be able to draw a bow back or, do anything like that. So I kind of strive, do all the things that people tell you that you can't do or you're too weak to do. And I take that and I run with it, and I love proving people wrong. So that's one of my favorite things to do, and I've done it year after year, and I'm going to keep doing it. You tell me I can't do it, and I will show you I can.
Well, I was going to tell you can't saddle hunt. That way you saddle hunt more, but no.
I can saddle hunt.
She's got the deer to prove it, people. So definitely listen to her advice. She's definitely, that's awesome. I'm glad you said that. So that's about all I had. And if you had anything else, man, Emily, I really appreciate your time. Before we get off here, let's go ahead and shout out your Instagrams and your Facebooks and Peterson's and anywhere people can find you, your real estate, all that stuff. And go ahead and give the audience kind of where they can find you on social media.
Yep. So my Instagram user is Schaad Emily. That's SCHAAD Emily. So you can find me there, and that's where I post most of my stuff. I don't post as much on Facebook, but my Facebook, you can just find me underneath Emily Schaad Konkler there. I'm real estate agent underneath Realtree Properties. If you look up Realtree Properties Ohio, you'll find my bio or anything that I have up for sale there. But yeah, you can see me with stuff through Onyx and Peterson Bow Hunting Magazine and anywhere around there. So
awesome.
Yep.
Awesome. Well, I'm super glad that we were able to connect. Like I said, as soon as I kind of saw that you were a real one, if you will, in terms of what you know and doing that hard work and not just having things given to you, I knew for a fact that I wanted to definitely have a conversation with you. And I'm really glad that you were able to take the time this evening and chat with us. I know we had a great time. So again, thank you. And
definitely appreciate you having me on.
We look forward to talking to you in the future. Thanks, Emily.
All right. Thank you.
All right, everyone, that's all we have for you today. We really hope you enjoyed that conversation with Emily. It was great to get to learn how she got into the industry and hear the story of getting the job done on that insane buck freak. And we definitely look forward to talking to her again after the season. As always, we appreciate you listening. Please give us a rating and share this episode with a friend. And until next time, enjoy the pursuit.